Wake Tech opened the first college campus in the United States where all buildings were built to energy conservation standards called LEED, L-E-E-D, all capitals, Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. In 2003, we had this property, the college did, and we needed to build a campus here. And because of our concern for two reasons. One is for the environment just in general, that we need to have a smaller carbon footprint, we need to use less resources. And secondly, the other right reason was that it can be economically feasible to do so. So if you can save money and do the right thing, then that's two rights that are the correct reasons.
LEED really wasn't well known in the marketplace yet, and the contractors were basically scared of it. And there was the general contractor that built it admitted later that he had a significant LEED factor built into his bid for the job because he hadn't done it before. He didn't understand it. As luck would have it, low bidder for the next building was the same general contractor. LEED for this building went extremely smoothly. It was virtually, you'd hardly even notice it, the difference from a standard construction, because A, they were used to it, they got the first, they were through the learning curve, and they realized it wasn't as bad as what they perceived it to be. There's a little bit more paperwork, but if you're used to doing the submittals process, etc., you have one more set of paperwork that you set aside for the LEED process.
We focused on energy conservation in our facilities. We did not focus on energy generation.
There's building automation systems that control the heating and cooling of the building, which is generated by from a regional plant that's on the campus as well. And we actually monitor the usage in the building. We have meters on those pipes so that we know how many BTUs are being used or contributed to the building, and that sort of thing.
Our cost probably was not but about 1% more for this construction with the energy saving features that we built in to these buildings, many of which are quite simple. For example, the orientation toward the sun. You can minimize heat gain and maximize light gain just by the way you orient your buildings, and that's reasonably free. The second area is insulation. What kinds of insulation do you use?
We've got a white Energy Star, very reflective monoply roof. Solar shading in one way or another. The first two buildings, technique was different than the building we're in, Building D. In this particular building, we overhung the roof on the south elevation and put in louvers to control the sun, the incident sun, so you don't have a lot of glare in the building.
And the third area is properly using energy, mixing your heating and cooling, having lights that turn off when they're not, when rooms are not in use.
We put in automatic sensors on the bathroom fixtures, the lavatories, and toilets. This is a CO2 sensor, right here. Now, why do we care what the CO2 is? Is because the air conditioning codes mandate how much fresh air you bring in the building to make sure everybody doesn't, you don't end up with sick building syndrome, basically, so that you're flushing enough air through the building. Of course, the biggest user of energy in a building is conditioning the outside air when it first comes in. So what you do is you monitor the CO2 level. And as long as your CO2 level stays with a certain level, you can actually suppress the amount of fresh air that you bring into the building, so that then you're saving that energy. And only when the CO2 level gets to a certain height, then you would actually go back to the standard amount of outside air being brought into the building. We
daylight harvest. In other words, we only use what energy we need to maintain a certain light level in the classrooms, and then the sensors and the controls take care, balance that out. And in addition to that, we use occupancy sensors, dual technology, so they're both infrared and ultrasound, so that they can detect when someone's in the room or not, because frankly, an off light saves more energy than a dimmed light. So when you walk in, oxygen sensor sees me, turns the lights on. And then, paying attention to, like, at a certain point, you're not going to be smoking in the building, so you're maintaining the indoor air quality long before you actually ever occupy. Like keeping, when the ductwork comes out prefabricated, it's sealed on the end so that it only is opened when it's actually assembled. So you always keep that system clean so that you're not, all your construction debris and dust, et cetera, is not finding its way into that system. Low VOC paints, adhesives, and sealants. Again, I don't know if you noticed when you walk in the building, you really didn't have a new building smell, and that's why. And it really contributes to the experience of being in the building. It feels much more comfortable.
But we see sustainability not as a standalone curriculum, but it needs to be integrated into all areas. So the first area that we're integrating into is our building technology, construction technology for our programs. You remember when you had to learn how to program a computer in order to be able to use a computer. Now the computer is ubiquitous, that no longer do I have to be able to program. As a matter of fact, it's just another tool that I can use. Likewise, I think that sustainability and green initiatives, we need to build them into all of our programs of study if we possibly can.
North Carolina recently enacted a bill that requires certain energy and conservation standards for all public agencies. Technically, we are not a public agency. However, our funding does come from public sources. So that bill really only applies to us when we are using state money. In this particular project, we didn't use any state money, it was all county money. However, that being said, when you start looking at the requirements of Senate Bill 668, this building satisfies virtually all of those requirements. So basically, we had it in the design before it was even legislated.
We have 125 acres on this site. We are partially built out. We've probably used 25% to 30% of the land. So we have, I think, 11 buildings, and there are 4 completed now. So we're about halfway. This past fall of '08, we had 4,800, I think, students on this campus. Fall of '09, we're expecting about 6,000 students on this campus. Upper limit is probably 12,000 students, maybe 14,000 on this campus.
Well, I don't think I'm going to be able to finish the campus before I retire.
This facility has won 8 or 9 different state and national awards for its buildings and energy conservation and design.
We had a ribbon cutting ceremony for the first 2 buildings 2 years ago. And the students had been in the buildings probably about a month or so. And one of them said to the campus dean, it was like, we built this, you built this for us. That's it precisely.